Thank you, Doctor. And the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Foster, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses today. I'm Congressman Bill Foster. I sometimes introduce myself as saying I represent 100% of the strategic reserve of physicists in the United States Congress, and I serve alongside Mr. McNerney, who represents 100% of the PhD mathematicians in this august body. But I was recently privileged to spend the day with Secretary Perry as he toured the two large DOE laboratories. And I was really struck with his genuine enthusiasm for the science they do and his willingness to advocate for the science program. So I'm encouraged to hear you echo that enthusiasm. Mr. DeBar, I was impressed actually by the bipartisan support for advanced battery development. So thank you for recognizing in your testimony the battery work at Argonne National Lab, which I represent, which anchors the nationwide J. Caesar initiative, a multi-laboratory, a multi-university collaboration for advanced batteries, which is in fact producing prototypes of these of the technology it's developing. Thank you also for acknowledging the critical role of Argonne's advanced photon source, which is, and presumably its upgrade, which I trust you will also support. This is crucial to the continuing development there. And finally, Argonne's petascale supercomputing initiative, which will be the world leader and should reclaim and something in an area where, frankly, it's under threat from China in surpassing it. And thanks also for your commitment to complete the construction of the LBNF Dune Neutrino Initiative at Fermilab, where I worked at Fermilab for 23 years before coming to the U.S. Congress, and so I got a chance to introduce a lot of my old friends to Secretary Perry when we had our tour together. And I've also been impressed by the international scientific enthusiasm for the neutrino program there, and second, my colleague from Illinois' enthusiasm and his emphasis on getting the PIP proton intensity program upgrade through the CD1 program and milestone and beyond. That's crucial. Now, the question that I have here is probably the toughest one you're going to be facing, which is the question of ITER, this is something that was punted to you from the last administration. It has been, a back and forth in Congress whether or not we should continue with ITER because of its well-known cost issues. And in the last fiscal year, there was a recommendation from the previous administration that the U.S. involvement in ITER be reassessed prior to the FY19 budget, which is, as you mentioned, ongoing. And this budget is now due in only a few weeks. And I was wondering, is this a decision timescale one that you expect to be, to be actually held, that you'll have a recommendation on whether to proceed with ITER by the time of?
Yes. So thank you, sir. So I think, as you know, in 18, back to the previous comment, so we'd asked the proposal, I was not here, but in terms of the handover, and it is a challenge, I admit, I think it's a challenge for everyone here, that the last cash proposal was 0, and we were asking for in-kind of 63, and the Senate mark was 0, and the House mark was 125. And so there's a big spread on this particular topic. On top of this, as someone who's highly focused on project management, both in environmental management and science, I think, as you know, the Office of Science has done, in general, a wonderful job on project management, and the ITER project has had some challenges. They have improved. And all these are data points that are out there. Another thing that we're obviously considering, I think, as you know, that when you do a CD0 and you look at what the science is supposed to move forward on, this is a project which is also taking a very long time, and you start thinking about the science and whether, what are we going to learn from the practical applied side versus the science side into lithium blanket and tritium, production, versus what we're going to learn on confinement and plasma sides. We are actively engaged, and I think it's going to take a little bit more time than the budget rollout in terms of all the debates. This is a very serious discussion. It is being held at the highest levels. There is obviously...
You'd mentioned that it was under review in the administration.
That's right.
Could you, who were the scientists involved in that review in the administration?
The full Office of Science.
No, in the administration, you said.
Well, at the administration
Yeah,
side.
political appointees and above. Who
Yeah,
are who are the
so-
scientists involved in that debate over ITER?
Well, the scientists are coming from my office. At the White House, as you probably know, the office of the OSTP is not filled at this moment, and the input in the science is coming from DOE. Just to
no,
narrowly answer that question, but there's involvement from state, the National Security Council, OMB.
Well,
And
there are
DOE.
two, scientific committees. The National Academy
That's
has an
right.
ongoing thing, and
yes.
FISAC, the Fusion Advisory Committee, is,
That's
I
right.
think, meeting this week, if I'm not mistaken.
They are.
And so you are actually going to listen to those, or will this be a political decision on the administration?
This is a decision in which science is going to be a big part. Obviously, there's also interests in the part of the European Union and others who advocate for this, not only from a science perspective, but from a broader perspective. And so all those, and as you probably know, there's two National Academy reviews going on, one of which there was a draft out and one which is still coming out that's a bit broader. All those are going to be inputs, which is why I think, this decision is going to take longer than the budget rollout because we want to have all the data points. But it's being taken very seriously at a very high level.
Yeah, and is your intention to make it during this calendar year, this current calendar year?
I believe so because it is very active.
All right, thank you. Yield back.
Thank the gentleman for yielding. And Dr. Abraham from Louisiana.